They say karma takes its time, but when it finally shows up, it knocks on the right door. This is how Mr. Langston got his smile back, not through vengeance, but with a pen, a paper, and a check she never saw coming. I watched her walk out on me with her heels clicking like punctuation marks across my hardwood floor, each step saying, "You ain't enough." No final hug, no goodbye kiss, just the sound of her silver suitcase wheels rolling over the welcome mat she once helped me pick out. Funny how love can pack up its things in under 10 minutes. That was the day I hit rock bottom. My last client had backed out, my accounts were damn near dry, and the lease on the co-working space I'd built from scratch was 4 days from being gone. She had dreams, big ones, always said she wasn't meant to struggle with a struggler. And me? Well, I was the struggler. So I didn't beg her to stay. Didn't offer dreams or discounts or desperate apologies. I just watched the woman I once called my rib leave me standing there with my hands empty, and my pride bruised so deep it didn't even bleed. But what she didn't know, what nobody knew, was that the fallen wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning. And baby, when I rose holding the title deed to everything she thought I'd never touch. Before it all fell apart, I thought we were doing all right. We weren't rich, not even close, but I had plans. We shared a small 2-bedroom apartment just outside Atlanta. Nothing fancy. The water heater groaned like an old man every time you took a shower, and the walls were thin enough to hear the neighbors arguing about remote controls and grocery bills. But that place, it was ours. Folks think a man don't feel deep about the little things, but I did. I memorized the way she hummed when she cooked, even though she couldn't carry a tune past the doorway. I remember how she used to fall asleep on the couch, laptop open, curled up in one of my raggedy hoodies that she'd sworn she hated. Her name was Amina. Ambitious girl, sharp as they come. She had one of them minds that saw the bigger picture when I was still trying to color inside the lines. When we first got together, I was doing freelance marketing jobs, logo design, branding stuff, social media campaigns for small businesses. It wasn't a thriving business yet. It was more of a, well, let's see if this works kind of thing. She supported me at first, kept a steady gig at an HR firm, talked about starting her own consulting company one day, liked to say we were a power couple in the making. We'd stay up late mapping out business ideas on sticky notes and old receipts. She'd toss out a vision, I'd work out the branding. It felt like we were building something together, brick by brick. But see, I didn't realize we were living on a seesaw. As long as I was up, she was there. But the minute I started sinking, that seat got real empty. The first year together, we made do. We had cheap date Fridays where we'd cook together and watch old reruns. She used to say, "Baby, I don't need no 5-star meal, just get me some wine and fries." You'd be amazed how romantic wine and fries can be when your hearts beat steady in the same rhythm. But somewhere along the line things started to shift. The bigger her dreams got, the smaller I felt in her eyes. She started introducing me differently in professional settings. Used to say, "This is Langston, he runs his own creative agency." But after a while she'd say things like, "This is Langston, he does some freelance stuff." Some like it was a hobby, like it wasn't the same hustle that helped pay the rent and keep us floating. I brushed it off, took the hits with a smile, figured she was under stress. But little digs have a way of carving deep over time. Then came that pitch. She'd been working on this concept for her own company, personnel consulting, professional coaching, HR contracts for small and mid-sized businesses. The idea was solid. I was proud of her. She asked me to help her develop the brand. Logo, website, color story, social media templates, the whole deal. I stayed up late after my own projects to work on hers. Didn't charge a dime. Because love, right? Because family. Because if one of us wins, we both win. Amina's company started taking off. First one client, then three, then she started talking about looking at office spaces. I was clapping from the sidelines, proud and sleepy, juggling her dreams and my own. But when my biggest client bailed on me due to budget cuts, that applause stopped. So did her patience. I remember the day I told her I might have to move operations back to our apartment, just to save on overhead. She frowned like I said I'd committed a sin. "Wait, bring work here?" she asked like here was a dump. I said just for a while, it's not permanent. She walked over to the sink, started scrubbing a plate that didn't need washing. "You know, Langston," she said, not looking at me, "you've been almost there for a long time." That was the first time I saw it plain in her eyes. This wasn't partnership to her anymore. It was performance. And I was flunking the audition. From that point on, things just kept unraveling. She started working late, leaving early, coming home smelling like fresh success and soft hints of something that wasn't my cologne. Stopped asking how my projects were doing. Stopped bothering to pretend she cared. But I still held on. Hope's a stubborn thing. You feed it scraps and it still grows like weeds between concrete. Then came that Sunday. That suitcase Sunday. She came into the living room, wheels clacking behind her like she was announcing a departure on a train we hadn't boarded together. I stood there confused, holding a coffee mug like it was a shield. "What's this?" "I'm leaving," she said. "I need something real, something stable." I blinked. "You mean me?" She didn't respond, just looked down at her phone and whispered, "This isn't working anymore, Langston. I can't keep carrying all this weight." All this weight, after everything I gave her. After the company I helped build. After nights pouring sweat and love into her dream while I juggled mine. She left. Just like that. Told me she couldn't wait forever for a man still dreaming. And that was the last time I spoke to Amina. Until the day I bought her name off the damn building. The weeks after Amina left felt like walking barefoot on glass. I didn't cry. Didn't chase her. I just moved slow, careful, like any sudden movement might make the hole in my chest split wide open. I'd wake up in that same apartment, every room echoing with her left-behind laughter. That mess still floated in the air like dust. Her perfume still lingered in the doorway, and the wine stain on the carpet reminded me of our last celebration. Funny how love leaves before its footprints do. At first, I did what most broken men do, disappeared into silence. I stopped answering calls, ignored emails, even let a couple of invoices slide just because I couldn't stomach explaining things. Pride's a funny thing. It'll drown you before it lets anyone see you sinking. My savings dried up. I let go of the coworking space, slashed every bill back to the bare minimum, moved my whole business to the kitchen table, stacked my files next to the cereal boxes, and kept my logo sketches under the coffee maker. It was humbling but necessary. One night I found an old sticky note Amina had left on my monitor months before she left. It read, "Keep going, you're the real deal." I held it in my hand like scripture. Not because I believed her, but because now I had to believe in me. I started working like a man on fire. No distractions, no favors, no women, no parties, just goals. I read everything I could get my hands on: SEO, contracts, digital strategy, client psychology, finance management, anything that sharpened my edge. I stopped taking small jobs that hollowed me out. Started targeting firms that needed what I offered. I updated my website, redesigned my pitch decks, and cleaned up my portfolio until it looked like it belonged in Forbes. Then one day, I sent a cold pitch to a mid-sized logistics company just outside the city. Figured it was a long shot. A week later, They invited me to speak in front of their board. And baby, when I tell you, I walked in still broke, but I spoke like a millionaire. And I left with a contract in my inbox worth 6 figures. 6 figures. I just sat in my car afterward, engine off, hands trembling on the steering wheel, and whispered to myself, this is chapter 2. From there, it was momentum. That one contract turned into 3. Folks started referring me. My name began to circulate in rooms I used to knock at with no answer. I hired a copywriter, then a project manager, then a junior designer. Started sleeping again. Ate better, breathed easier. Got stronger. But here's the part no one talks about. Growth is lonely. When folks leave you in the valley, they rarely show up at the peak. I celebrated my wins eaten, takeout on the same couch she left me on. No confetti. No applause. Just me and the peace that comes with not needing nobody's validation. About a year and a half after she left, I got an invitation to a local business expo downtown. My company had just been asked to run branding for the event, so I was invited as a featured speaker. I showed up in a fitted gray suit, not flashy, just clean. Confidence not stitched in the fabric, but in the way I now walked. And wouldn't you know it, right there, front row by the catering table, stood Amina. Same sharp jawline, same red lipstick, but her dress looked a few seasons behind, and the glow she used to carry. Gone. She didn't see me at first. She was too busy trying to fix the projector, looked flustered. I overheard her tell someone she was short-staffed and stretched thin. I stayed back. Watched. I wasn't mad anymore. Wasn't bitter. Just curious. Then it hit me. The name of her company, Kinetic Core Consulting, was on all the banners, but I already knew that. What I didn't know was that her business was up for sale. I got the full tea 2 weeks later from an old connection. She had debts, unpaid vendors, no runway left. She was weeks from closing. She'd even listed her accounts in a private portfolio booklet for qualified investors. Now, let me tell you something real clear. This wasn't about revenge. Not at this stage. This was about balance. See, when she left me, she told me I wasn't strong enough to build something real. So tell me why I, Langston Noel McCall, was now holding a document in my email offering me the rights to buy out her company's name, her branding, her vision. God didn't shout. He just slid the papers across the table. And baby, I picked up the pen. I didn't even blink before I hit download on that investor packet. Ain't nothing colder than a man who's been broken and built himself back with silence. My heart wasn't racing. My palms weren't sweaty. I was calm. Because unlike her, I wasn't running off urgency. I had clarity. I sat at my desk that night, same one she once walked away from, and flipped through the info page by page. Her company, Kinetic Core Consulting, was hanging on by threads. Launch debt had climbed up high. Revenue was trickling, not flowing. She had 2 small contracts still on renewal, but they were barely keeping the lights on. Website hadn't been updated in 6 months. Social media, ghost town. I'd built the whole brand blueprint for her back when we were still together. And now here I was, staring at the bones of that same business. She made one big mistake, though, one she never saw coming. See, back when we were building her company together, I helped her file, walked her through the LLC paperwork, the EIN, the branding, trademarks. At her request, we used a business attorney I knew, and at the time, I was listed as a silent partner on the initial paperwork. We both forgot about it because I never acted on it. But legally, I had history with this company. So when I contacted the broker discreetly about the acquisition, it wasn't strange at all. Just a former co-founder wanting to reclaim his stake in the sinking ship. Didn't need a disguise, didn't need a puffed chest. Just careful negotiation, and one well-placed signature. 22 days later, I bought Kinetic Core Consulting for $48,000. She built it off dreams I helped finance, and she sold it for less than I paid for my car. The final sign-off happened via email. Broker looped us both in, not realizing we had unfinished business. The moment she saw my name in that email thread, she responded in 14 minutes flat. "Langston, wait, this has to be a mistake. You're the buyer." I stared at that message for a long minute, then typed back simply, "No mistake, just business." The closing meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon, neutral location, private co-working boardroom. I made sure to be early. Wore navy blue. Not just because it's my brand color, but because it's calm, understated, commanding without yelling. She walked in exactly on time. That told me she still had some pride left. Amina looked at me like a woman looking at yesterday's shadow, like I wasn't supposed to make it past heartbreak. She looked good, but different. Lighter in the purse, heavier in the eyes. She shook the broker's hand first, then sat across from me. Didn't speak right away. She couldn't seem to hold eye contact either. Eventually she asked real soft, why would you do this?" I didn't answer fast. Didn't need to. I leaned forward just a touch, rested my hand on the table. "Because I built this with you in the beginning. The bones were mine too." She blinked. "That was a lifetime ago." I nodded, "and I've lived a whole one since." She thought I came to gloat. I didn't. She waited for revenge. I handed her release. Told her I had plans to rebrand, restructure, and bring in a new coaching model, one based on integrity. Told her I'd be keeping very little of her content, not as a punishment, just because it no longer fit the vision. She sat there frozen, like she wanted to be mad but couldn't quite find the footing for it. "You really came back, huh?" she whispered. "No," I corrected gently. I rose. She pressed her lips together. That silence held everything she never thought she'd feel for me again. Shock, maybe regret, definitely shame. Not long after, she excused herself with a polite smile. That was the last time I ever saw her face to face. I didn't plaster it online. Didn't throw shade or post receipts. Didn't tag her or drop subliminals for clicks or applause. I just built the company she once threw my spirit behind and walked away. Clients rolled in within the first 2 months of the relaunch. My team handled onboarding. I kept her 2 original clients, treated them with kindness, gave them better service than they'd ever known. I doubled their contracts before the quarter closed. Because that's how you win. Not by destroying what hurt you, but by transforming it into your strength. When God balances a scale, it don't always make a sound. Sometimes justice is quiet. Just a slow drip of truth into the mouths of the same folks who once drank lies. It was maybe 2 months after I took over Kinetic Core when the calls started coming in. Not clients, people. People we both used to know. Folks from the old startup mixers, black-owned business events, ATL entrepreneur circles. One brother from Uptown called me just to say, "Man, you really bought her company." I paused, then said, "I resurrected a body she left to die, that's all." He laughed. "I'll be real with you. After she dipped on you, I figured you were done." And right there it was. That's what most folks thought, that I went down with the ship she abandoned. They didn't know that some men are soil, not stone. Step on them and they just grow something better. Word spread the way word always does in places where wine gets poured faster than wisdom. Amina hadn't told many people her business was failing. Pride will have you out here settin', couches on fire but still flippin'. The cushions like folks can't smell the smoke. But once I rebranded Kinetic Core under a new name, Core Plus Co., and launched the new website. Well, it only took one follow from a mutual connection for questions to start swirling. She could have paraded around the old world like nothing changed. But the internet don't forget. And neither do old receipts. There was a side-by-side post going around, folks comparing the before and after of the brand. Same bones, same founder history, new voice, new direction, new leadership. One sister commented, "Okay, but wait, didn't she start this business with his help years ago?" Another said, "Y'all remember when she left him, and now he running the shop, And I just sat back. Didn't respond. Didn't correct nobody. Again, God don't need hype men. About 4 months into the relaunch, I got invited to speak on a local radio show. Small Business Spotlight. Had over 20,000 listeners that morning. They introduced me like this. Today's guest is Langston McCall, founder of Core Plus Co., a rising firm in brand identity and business leadership. Formerly Kinetic Core Consulting, he turned a struggling company into one of Atlanta's most talked-about firms in under 6 months. That's what I call a turnaround. I smiled. Breathe in, breathe out. That company was never struggling from a lack of service, I said calmly, just from a lack of alignment. I simply gave it its soul back. Hugh, the host leaned in. Can we talk about its former ownership? Because word on the street is. I chuckled, just a soft, polite sound. I believe in staying future-facing, I said. All I'll say is when someone leaves you behind, sometimes they're just opening space for you to sit at your own table, as the owner. And that, baby, that turned Twitter on its head for a good week. Never saw her after that signing day, but I heard. Heard she tried to start another company, no traction. Tried to freelance, burned out. Folks were hesitant to work with her, not for lack of talent, but for lack of trust. You can be brilliant, but if your integrity's bankrupt, people remember. A few months later, I got an anonymous message through the website. Just said, I deserved every bit of this, and I hope you find peace in knowing I see that now. No signature. But sometimes, you don't need a name to know the truth. I didn't clown her. Never screenshotted receipts, never posted subliminals. Never dragged anyone's name through the digital mud. Because I had something she no longer did. A clear conscience. And when you've tasted heartbreak, then held your head high through the storm, you don't trade that kind of peace for petty. Truth is, if I ever saw her again, I wouldn't gloat. I'd just nod. Maybe even pray she finally learned how to love something past its rough season. Some people don't need punishment. They just need time to sit in the silence they created. And silence. It's real loud at the top when you climb there alone. I wish I could tell you that when the dust settled, I stood on top of it all like some kind of king, chest out, arms raised, eyes toward the heavens. But baby, healing don't come like that. It's not a movie moment, it sneaks in. Quiet, slow, one choice at a time. I started sleeping through the night again. That was the first sign. No more waking at 3 a.m. wondering if I wasn't good enough. Or if I'd ever be respected by someone I had once given everything to. I no longer looked for her in the faces of women in passing cars, didn't hover over messages, wondering if she'd reach out again. I didn't need that story to reopen. Because I was finally writing a new one. The company grew, not overnight but enough. Core Plus Co. picked up partnerships with business development groups and online communities. I was offered a guest teaching spot at a local design school. Kids learning UX and branding wanted to know my process. Imagine that. Somebody's son who used to wake up checking if the lights were still on, now teaching the science behind self-made stability. I found me again. You know what hurt me most back then? It wasn't that she left. It's that I almost agreed with why she did. That's what betrayal does. It don't just take people from you. It makes you question if you should have left your own self a long time ago. But baby, I'm here to tell you, trauma lies, and so does temporary disappointment. People will walk out because they don't understand seeds need time. They think you failed because you ain't bloomin' yet. But they forget. Some trees take years to bear fruit. And once they do, oh, they don't just grow, they rise. Grace for her, grace for me. I never hated Amina. I was hurt, yes. But the truth, now that I've seen what real peace feels like, I can say with all my heart, I don't need her downfall to prove my worth. She made a choice, I did too. But the one I made, to build, to believe, to heal, gave me more than any payoff revenge ever could. She made me feel small once. But if I'm being honest, her absence, it revealed space I didn't know I needed. I grew to fill it. And that was the real gift. A life I built with my own hands. These days, my office no longer sits next to a box of cereal on the kitchen counter. We have suites now, floors with sliding glass doors, indoor plants too expensive for my old budget, and a little staff that laughs loud and works hard. I walk through that space sometimes after hours when it's quiet and just let the silence wrap around me. Not the silence of loss, but the silence of arrival. I made it, with nobody to impress, and nobody to prove wrong. Just one foot in front of the other, until it all felt right again. They say karma takes its time, but when it finally shows up, it knocks on the right door. And sometimes, that door ain't the one you slam shut in anger. It's the one you leave open for growth to walk through. Langston didn't win by shouting. He didn't fight dirty. He didn't go looking to humiliate the one who hurt him. No, he just let his pain build him a vision, and then he followed it, one humble step at a time. See, baby, some people will love you only as long as you're climbing. But that's not love, that's leverage. It takes a special kind of strength to rise without reaching back to throw mud. But it takes even more to rise and forgive. Now, I'm not saying you let folks stomp on your boundaries. No, ma'am. But I am saying you can outgrow the folks that left you behind without carrying rage in your pocket. Because when you heal the right way, you don't need revenge. You just need receipts. And peace, baby. Peace makes every win sweeter than sugar. Have you ever been left in your low place? And if you could sit across from that person now, would you offer grace or silence? Tell me in the comments. And if this story touched a soft place in your spirit, go on and subscribe. Auntie Me Gone, keep telling the stories nobody else will tell, soft but strong. True, not flashy. Just the kind that feel like home. Till next time, hold your head high and build quiet things that last.